வணக்கம் அன்பு நண்பர்களே, இன்றைய சிறப்பு கேள்விக்கென்ன பதில் நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு உங்கள் அனைவரும் அன்போடு வரவேற்கிறேன். இந்தியாவுடைய மிக முக்கியமான துறையில் வைத்துக் கொண்டிருக்கக்கூடிய நிதியமைச்சகத்தையும் இராணுவத்தையும் வைத்திருக்கக்கூடிய திரு அருண் ஜேட்லி மத்திய அமைச்சர் நம்மோடு இருக்கிறார். அவரிடம் கேட்பதற்கு நிறைய இருக்கின்றன. ஜிஎஸ்டி பிரச்சனை உள்பட வாருங்கள் முடிந்தவரை கேட்கலாம். வணக்கம் சார். I just want to start. What could be the and what is the difference between current GST introduced by the NDA government and the previous GST introduced by UPA government? Because previous finance minister Mr. Chidambaram says that this is not what we introduced. This is not people friendly.
I think he's wrong on all counts. Theirs was a failed effort. In fact, during his tenure, neither could a consensus be reached between the states, nor was even a draft prepared or introduced in Parliament. Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, when he was the finance minister, had actually introduced the Constitution Amendment in Parliament. That Constitution Amendment also failed, it couldn't be passed because there was no consensus between the states. And the primary reason was that the states never wanted some of the products, such as petroleum products or alcohol, to be a part of the GST. Secondly, the states, when they were giving up their sovereignty with regard to taxes into the mechanism of the GST Council, wanted to be assured that in case in the initial years of implementation, the state revenues suffer, how would they be compensated? The UPA was never federalism friendly. So it was not willing to assure the states that it would compensate the losses. It's only when the NDA government took over that in the years 2014 and 15, we brought about a consensus between the states and came out with an agreed draft of the Constitution Amendment, which was radically different. The UPA's was a failed draft. It didn't take off.
But Minister, you are talking about the political consensus and including the states. I am asking about the content. They were saying that the GST which they introduced were people friendly.
You see, how is it people friendly? They couldn't introduce anything. So it's only a fictional idea that they have that it is people friendly. They couldn't even cross the first step. So where is the question of their going into details? And therefore, we made it a reality. We brought a consensus between political parties. We brought a consensus between the states. We then passed the Constitution Amendment. We then passed the laws. We then decided the various rates. They couldn't go to even cross the first step of bringing a state in the, bringing a consensus in the empowered committee of finance ministers.
Is it not because of the majority you have in the parliament and the strength you have?
No,
Mr. Chidambaram was telling that if I have this kind of majority, I will have done a miracle.
Well, he can give 100 alibis for his failure, but a failure is a failure.
Minister, will you call this GST as a people friendly?
You see, the taxation itself is assessee friendly and people friendly for more than one reason. It makes businesses in India easier. Every person doing business in India had to confront various taxes. He had to file different returns. He had to have multiple interfaces with assessing authorities. So a total of 17 taxes and 23 cesses all consolidated it into one. So instead of having physical interfaces, filing returns, today he just has one tax. He has to file his monthly detail on the software. And at the end of the year, if he is honestly filing it, that turns out to be his annual return and his assessment order on the net. So there is no interface. He doesn't have to go through the various compliance burdens. There is one uniform tax across the country, so it will be a free movement of goods and services across the country. You already have 25 states where your octroi posts have been demolished. Your trucks have become surplus suddenly because instead of 5 days, they take 3 days. So there is a free movement, a faster movement of goods and services taking place. There is a faster assessments which will take place. And then you will get across the country, irrespective of where you've done manufacturing, where you've done value addition, where you've done the sales, you'll get the benefit of input credits. Therefore, the costs will go down. And when the costs go down, in the it helps the consumers itself. Of course, there'll be a problem. In the earlier system, there was tax evasion, which was almost the rule. Today, it's become increasingly more difficult.
Minister, you are talking about price reducing, but don't you have you not ever heard or complained about the price hikes, price rise, especially in the hotels sector and everywhere?
No, that's not correct.
Even in a chai dukan, we can see that visibly it's from 8 rupees to 10 rupees.
If people were indulging in tax evasion earlier, and tax evasion was tax saved, and that resulted in price saving, it's not a price saving in the interest of the nation. It's price saving in the interest of a private pocket. For instance, today, as far as small
vendors,
shops are concerned, those with a turnover of less than 20 lakhs,
they don't have to pay any tax.
They don't have to pay any tax. And therefore, this illustration that you are giving is highly exaggerated and almost impossible illustration.
Have you not heard so? Is there any complaint? Have you heard about
You see, in fact, in most cases, if you look at the overall basket of taxes, the weighted average has gone down. The weighted average today has gone down. Don't forget, earlier, the excise part of the tax was already embedded in the cost. And therefore, the consumers could not read it. They could only read the VAT being added. Today, both excise and VAT are taken out of the cost and separately imposed as GST, half by the state and half by the center. And therefore, the methodology of taxation is different. There's no longer an embedded tax in the product.
You had a lot of new schemes and easy way to file their things, everything. But what is the benefit for a common man? It could be easier for traders, it could be easier for business class and everything. What is the ultimate benefit from the GST for a common man?
You see, the common man ultimately benefits from the overall economy. You see, if today tax evasion becomes more difficult and in the long run, the states, in the medium term and the long term, the state and the center have more funds at their disposal, those funds are going to be used for the common man. You will have more irrigation facility, you will have more healthcare, better healthcare, you will have better education, you will have better facilities as far as the common person is concerned. An empowered state will always act in public interest.
Certainly, Minister, infrastructure, everything, if you do that, certainly people will have happy about them. But directly linking with the traders and business class, the common man, if they want to go to any shop and all, they immediately visibly see that there is a price hike. Previously, they were paying 400 rupees, now they have to pay 480 rupees like that.
It's not correct. It's not correct. If he was earlier paying 400 and he had to pay a VAT on top of the 400, as a part of that 400, the excise duty was already embedded. And there was no benefit of input credits that he was getting. So that 400, if you take the excise duty out, will become about 360. And if the trader honestly gives to them, or the manufacturer gives to them the benefits of input credits, that 360 may actually become 320. And then on top of that 320, the GST will be added. And therefore, the benefit to the common man, once the prices start stabilizing, today you haven't even spent a month on it, and therefore the entire benefit of the system is not coming. But in the long run and the medium term, the benefit of this whole system with this pricing policy itself will come about.
Mr. Minister, how you are going to ensure that the benefit of the GST is reaching the common man?
Wherever taxes have been reduced, the benefit of the reduced tax has to go to the consumer.
How we are going to ensure that?
Otherwise, there is already in the law an anti-profiteering clause. Under the anti-profiteering clause, both in the center and the states, a mechanism is proposed to be set up which will hear grievances as far as the burden or the benefit of the tax reduction not being passed to the consumer is concerned.
Are we successful in convincing the traders? Because I have seen there was a huge protest in Surat. The state belongs to BJP and central government, Modi Saab's own state. And we have to put lathi charge and everything. We were unable to convince the business class from Surat itself.
Some people had thought that not paying tax is a fundamental right. Obviously, the premise of a GST is that there is no such right available. Everybody must pay tax. If you remember 2 years ago, gold traders had said that we will not pay tax. Now, why should a luxury item like gold not be taxed? Similarly, the methodology of taxing on textile had changed, and therefore some of the people, even though there was no additional tax burden coming on them because of GST, the input credit on fiber and yarn would have subsumed that taxation. But in order to claim the benefit of that input credit, their volume of business would have become known, and therefore liabilities under Income Tax Act would have arisen. And obviously, to be an honest taxpayer is good for the country. Now, if some people protested, I really can't help it. But these were stray protests. As far as the country as a whole is concerned, there is an overwhelming support, and this is evident from the fact that the tax base has already started increasing. You had 80 lakh assessees in various forms of indirect taxes. That is registered under excise, service tax, VAT. There were 80 lakh people registered under all laws. Many of them were registered twice or thrice over. You were registered for VAT, you were also registered for service tax.
So duplication also would be there.
So that all has been eliminated. Now everybody is registered once. So out of the old assessees, 72 lakhs have already migrated. And the figure won't be much higher than 72 lakhs out of the old because there were duplications also. Additionally, in the first 3 weeks after GST, already 12 lakh more have added. And this figure is going to continue. So I anticipate in the very first year itself, the taxation base itself is going to expand.
Minister, seriously, the government is thinking that gold is a luxury product? Is it not linked with the common man and each and every family for marriages and everything?
Which world are you living in? Which world are you living in? Bulk of the gold consumption in India is by the first 2 or 3% of India's population. The rest, some may have elementary possession of 1 or 2 articles. Gold nowhere in the world is considered an essential item. It's always a luxury item. Culturally, it may be a part of our society.
Here with your marriage and everything, if you have a daughter, we have to save gold.
Therefore, you are only talking in terms of large volumes in possession of wealthy people. Are you aware of the fact that 50% of the gold in India is not in form of jewelry? It's only in forms of biscuits. Therefore, you must come to a real world and not live in a fictional world.
Almost 50%.
Almost 50%.
Okay. How we are going to convince and bring them in the line, the business community and the traders and all, how you are going to convince? Certainly, it will be a burden for them.
It's not fair to blame them. I think most of them are already online. There is a very large section of business which feels that it's now safer and prudent to pay taxes, to do your business honestly. There's a risk of not doing it honestly involved, and those risks are increasing. And the fact that such large number of people have migrated and new registrants are coming itself is a good tribute to the Indian businesses. They are realizing that there is a change in the methodology taking place. Also remember, a lot of people earlier would avoid paying taxes because of fear of harassment. And therefore, GST is a system where the compliance burden is very low.
Mr. Minister, is there any plan to remove income tax? Because Mr. Subramaniaswamy himself told that you can't, both GST and income tax can't exist simultaneously because
let us be very clear. The whole theory is based on a flawed idea. GST is an indirect tax. An indirect tax per se is a regressive tax. That is to say, if a soap or an oil or a shampoo or a household product is bought by a person, he may be a millionaire or he may be a very poor man, both pay the same amount and the same amount of tax. Therefore, the GST doesn't really distinguish between the rich and the poor. It's a regressive tax. Per se, indirect taxes all over the world are considered regressive. Income tax is a progressive tax. Only the wealthy pay income tax. The middle classes pay some income tax, and the poor people are exempted from paying income tax. So, bulk of the income tax is paid by economically the more affluent. And therefore, to abolish a progressive tax and concentrate only on regressive tax is never a sound economic policy.
Mr. Mishra,
Nowhere in the world can it happen.
you are very well aware that if you earn at least more than 25,000 per month, you have to pay income tax.
Today,
So 25,000 is not a huge amount in a city.
today, you're right. Today, the kind of policy that we are following as far as income tax is concerned, broadly up to an income of about 5 lakhs a year, which means a little over 45,000 rupees a month, your income tax liability is very marginal. Up to 2.5 lakhs, there is an exemption. For the next 50,000, no tax is payable, so 3 lakhs gets exempted. Then you get a large number of deductions. And in the last budget, if you remember, for this category of people, I had reduced the slab to 5%, which means, and 5% is a slab which is nowhere in the world. It's the lowest slab in India. So up to 5 lakh rupees in India, if you are earning, your tax liability is a little more than negligible. It's only increases if your income rises above that. That is why we call income tax always a progressive tax.
And there is a great cry that through GST, the state's own right to collect taxes and everything is taken away by central.
Well, 80% of the GST is going to go to the states. Out of the
Seriously?
total amount collected, 50% belongs to the center, 50% belongs to the states. Then under the devolution, out of the center's share of 50, 42%, which is 21% more, will go to the states. So 50 plus 21 is 71%. Then as a part of the central government schemes for which grants are given to the state, some more money will flow from the states. So eventually out of the total basket of the GST collected, I anticipate almost 80% of the taxes are going to go to the states.
Then why the states are crying for compensation? When they were seeking the compensation itself means there is a huge loss for them.
Compensation, there is a fear of the unknown. And the fear of the unknown is, what if in the initial years I lose revenue? To which we told them that, all right, you will be compensated if you lose revenue. I personally don't think many states are going to lose revenue.
Like Tamil Nadu and West Bengal, like that, manufacturing states may lose a lot.
You see, there are essentially 4 strong manufacturing states. Tamil Nadu is there, Karnataka is there, Maharashtra and Gujarat. So because it's a destination tax, the manufacturing states have this fear. So we've promised them a compensation in case there is a loss of revenue, along with a 14% increase of revenue every year. That's the promise. But how much is actually lost, if at all something is lost, will be seen at the end of the year.
Okay. How we are going to ensure that tax collected from a common man reaches the government? Because now, of course, visibly we are seeing that lot of in each and every bill there is a GST 9% for GST. How we are going to assure that?
The distribution between the center and the state takes place on the software itself.
Previously, you were saying that tax evasion became tax saving. How we are going to reduce that? All the tax will be paid. Whatever the collected amount, it will be reach the government.
You see, this is very easy to ensure on the software. The nature of the software is such that, you see, the matching will take place so easily. Matching of the bills will take place. The matching of the tax deposited and the tax collected will take place. That is now going to be entirely software driven.
Without physical supervision, is Minister very assured that there is no need for a physical supervision, and
you see,
only
the software will throw its own alerts up, and therefore those alerts will alert the people in the GSTN system. A lot of the information will get computer generated itself.
In Tamil Nadu, there is a huge dispute going on about collecting entertainment tax on cinemas and all. More than 30% they have increased for local panchayats. Is not seen as again a separate tax for.
See, I'll tell you, there were, whereas 17 specific taxes have been amalgamated, there are 2 or 3 taxes relating to vehicles and so on, also some cinema, which has been kept out of GST. The states, there was no consensus with the states on this. I have written to all the states that since we are experimenting the GST formula, let the formula GST be implemented, and therefore in the initial period, even though there are 2 or 3 taxes which have been kept outside the GST, the states should preferably refrain from using those taxes. so that there is no additional burden on the taxpayer itself. If the GST itself is going to give us sufficient revenue, then there is no reason why we should then resort to additional revenue raising measures as far as the governments are concerned. It's only an advisory. It is not binding on the states because it's a sovereign power of the states.
If it is not a binding, how will they abolish by that? Because in Tamil Nadu, especially, we are facing the problem.
I think every state acts in public interest. It keeps the popular sentiment in mind. One of the good features of a taxation policy is that you tax what is necessary. You don't tax beyond a point. A state can impose unreasonable taxes also, but a state should not impose unreasonable taxes. And therefore, every state will have to keep that in mind.
In the matter of a petrol diesel taxation, here in local taxes also there, so that's almost 50% of the cost. It comes. If we bring the petrol diesel also into the GST network,
the consumer, common man will benefit from that. And I'll give you the reason why. The states did not want petrol and petroleum products and gas, etc., to be brought within the GST. But we persuaded the states that as a part of the Constitution Amendment, let it be brought within the GST. So, Constitution Amendment permits it. But it has been agreed between the center and the states that a tax on petroleum and petroleum products will be levied only after there is an agreement in the GST Council with the states. And therefore, I hope at some day, very soon, there will be a consensus, because today the inputs into petroleum and gas are being taxed, but the consumer is not getting the benefit of that input credit. So, in case it is brought within the GST, the consumer may get a marginal benefit of the input credit also.
Is there any possibility for bringing
I'm sure. I'm quite optimistic that in due course, we will be able to persuade the states to think in terms of petroleum. That depends on the success of GST experiment as a whole.
Mr. Minister, what do you think that a huge task and huge risk and huge hurdle are you facing in implementing it and existing mechanism?
No, I think it has been the smoothest implementation possible.
What could be your challenge now?
I'll tell you. You see, our first challenge was to bring a consensus with the states. Our next challenge was to bring a consensus on the rates. Then everybody started saying, many people started saying, don't implement it on the 1st of July to keep the time schedule. We kept the time schedule. Then the next challenge was, once it starts, the software system will be so overloaded. How will the registrations take place? That has taken place very smoothly. Now the next challenge is that the matching of the bills will start once the bills are filed, and that is going to be August and September onwards. The capacity of the software is to match 320 crore vouchers every month. So that's the volume of the trade. So the manufacturers' vouchers will be matched with his distributors, the distributors with his sub-distributors, the sub-distributors with the retailers.
Then only we can have the input credits and all.
And then then you will see that everybody has made an honest declaration. So let us say if there is a consumer product company selling toothpaste or soaps and things like this. So how much did the manufacturer manufacture and sell? What is the GSTN number of the people to whom he sold and how much? Each distributor then sold to the sub-distributor. His return will indicate that. The sub-distributor to the retailer. And the retailer will have a very limited return saying that I sold, let us say, 8 lakhs worth of goods this month. So this whole chain will be cross-verified by in the software by matching the vouchers. So the total number of vouchers to be matched is 320 crores. It's a mammoth work which has been done.
That's going to be a great challenge.
That's going to be a great challenge. So that is the next challenge. And
are we prepared for that?
I think we are prepared for that. You see, technology can always lead to glitches. But glitches then get resolved in no period of time because that's the strength of technology. And even if there are glitches, fortunately so far we have not had glitches, but if there are, we'll be able to overcome them. And then once the matching takes place, now you will understand how evasion becomes very difficult at any stage. And if somebody does evade, then the red alerts will be thrown up.
And there was a dispute on GSTN. Mr. Subramanian Swamy asking that the GST network is given to private banks and all. That could be cause some our secrets and everything will be can move away. Like that, you are having some doubts on GSTN.
The center and the state governments own 49% of the GSTN. There are some very responsible private sectors. You have the HDFC, you have the National Stock Exchange, you have the LIC Housing, which own the balance shares. So these are not some stray private sector companies. Under the article, it is subject to CAG audit, and the government has a veto in all decisions.
Okay.
Now, the reason why the government holdings were kept at 49%, because we wanted a flexibility in terms of salaries and in terms of management. You see, you need a software company which is going to have such a massive operation. Now, you need the best professionals to be hired. You need people from the best in the world to be hired to run this. And therefore, some element of flexibility free from governmental systems was also required. So, during the UPA government, a particular structure was conceived. I had a relook at that structure. We made some changes in the structure, like CAG audit and so on. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that structure per se.
There is no negative aspects.
There is no negative aspect.
Okay. Are you sure that our central and state revenue will increase by GST?
There will 100% increase. The base will increase. The evasion will come down. And as the base increases, hopefully the rates also become more reasonable.
By what time we can really feel the fruit that of course GST is working?
I think the trade and businesses will start feeling it from the first year itself. And as far as the consumers are concerned, they'll find the system far easier.
Is there any legal hurdle left in the GST thing, or everything going smoothly?
No, legally it's very smooth.
Because we were unable to convince the Supreme Court in Aadhaar case, because you can't connect the Aadhaar with everything. They were completely
we have had no difficulty in convincing the Supreme Court. We have no problem with the Supreme Court in Aadhaar also.
But
somebody can challenge it. Obviously, if the challenge is there, the government will defend the challenge.
Now, the privacy become a huge discussion. And
well, that's all right. I think that will be decided on its own merit.
What we are doing in Bihar are criticized by political parties, or especially opposition, that it is not fair because you are breaking the alliance and you are getting into the government.
We have not broken the alliance. You see, let's be very clear. Mr. Nitish Kumar and Mr. Lalu Yadav had contested the election in alliance with each other. Facts have proved that the RJD, Mr. Lalu Yadav and his family, was almost involved in a very, very unfortunate corruption cases. And the facts were one-sided. And therefore, that alliance itself, because of the RJD and the family's corruption, had become unsustainable. So Mr. Nitish Kumar took the call. Now, I am a little surprised when in 2013, he left the BJP and aligned with the other side. At that time, nobody said go in for a fresh election. Today, how is this new logic being concocted?
Because people have never not supported you in the previous election. They have supported that alliance. So,
no, but that logic was available even in 2013. In 2013, when he left us, did the same people ask for a fresh election at that stage?
And how it all happens within 24 hours, the governor receives the resignation and the BJP parliamentary board decides to support, and within 24
we had
hours.
made our position when the corruption allegations were coming up. We knew that the election is cracking up. The alliance is cracking up. You see, for 2 months, this whole campaign of corruption went on against RJD and Lalu Yadav's family. And therefore, it was clear that the coalition was cracking up. And when it was cracking up, obviously, every political party has to be prepared for a repolarization of forces. Is this the first time a repolarization of political groups has taken place? In Bihar, only 4 years ago it took place.
And there is a charge that the central government is using all its forces, the agencies like CBI and IT and everything, just because of their political reasons. So,
well, I think let us not make a generalized statement. Let us come and discuss the case in specific.
Especially
now, tell me one case where any investigating agency has done something which is unfair. Please name one case. You make people ministers on behalf of your cabinet and get their houses and agricultural land transferred to your name. You give somebody a class 4 job and take away his agricultural land and have it transferred to your name. You are only owning shell companies and properties and farmhouses and various other lands and proposed malls through those shell companies. You privatize 2 hotels of the railways, and the beneficiary of privatization transfers his land through a mechanism to you and your family members.
All these things not happened just 2 months back. This happened well before. And only after you got the government...
No, the exposures have taken place now. You may have committed an act of corruption 2 years ago, but you will get exposed only when it comes in public domain.
Only when we lost the power in Bihar?
No, we lost it in 2013.
So it happened even before that?
No, we lost it in 2013, but the facts became known now. So it's only when the facts are known that they will come in public domain. Have we lost our sense of morality and ethics that you can do all this and say, oh, now it's an old allegation, so the old allegation ceases to be an allegation. It's no longer immoral. Is it a defense to say I didn't commit the theft yesterday, no. I did it 2 years ago? Is this a defense in politics?
And the things happening in Gujarat, Congress MLAs resigns and they are coming to BJP and the party is breaking down.
You see, it's very simple. When Mr. Shankar Singh Waghela left the BJP, he took 40 MLAs along. Today, when he is leaving the Congress, obviously some MLAs will come out of the Congress. It has nothing to do with the BJP. It has something to do with the exit of Mr. Shankar Singh Waghela from the Congress. When a senior leader who has a lot of following leaves a party, his supporters leave with him. Is this something unusual? When in 1996 Shankar Singh Waghela left the BJP, 40 MLAs left with him. So now he is leaving the Congress 20 years later. So obviously some MLAs are leaving with him.
There is a say that it's a poll-bonded state and Hardik Patel issue and we have changed.
You see, 1996 also was poll because 97 was the poll date in Gujarat. So it is not that poll bound issues, the rules will be different. It's a very simple fact. Congress is trying to just complicate the issue by saying, oh, the BJP is doing it. Well, one of your topmost leaders is leaving the party. His supporters are leaving with him.
And there is a say in Tamil Nadu that the same yardstick you are using in Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu also already became in the list of BJP ruled states. By controlling the ADMK, BJP is ruling in Tamil Nadu also. So all
it's a ADMK government. We are not a part of this government. You see, it is true that the DMK is a part of the Congress alliance. The DMK is a part of the Congress alliance, and therefore there are some issues on which the ADMK supports the central government. There are some issues they don't support the central government. And that was the position even when Amma was alive. In Parliament, when the bills were passed, on some of the bills she supported us, on some she didn't support us. The ADMK is running its own government in Tamil Nadu.
Okay, my last question, Mr. Minister. Why we have not revealed how much currency came into the Reserve Bank in the demonetization
period? This argument is based on ignorance. Till 31st of March, the NRIs were depositing money. The last tranche of currency, which was collected by the cooperative banks, the last installment which was collected by the cooperative banks in November, has been permitted to come into the RBI now in July, in the first week of July. So till now the currencies have been coming. The public currency stopped on 30th of December. Then the NRI went in different categories, and now those cooperative banks have given the money. The RBI has to count each currency note. You can't give an approximation. They are doing it. They have substantially completed the exercise, I am told, and as soon as they complete the exercise, they distinguish the fake notes from the real ones, etc. They will give the exact figure in public domain.
Minister might be aware that till December 12, there was a regular press release every week, how much money we were getting.
During the period of demonetization, when monies used to come from the banking chests into the RBI, an approximate figure used to be released. In the present set of counting, you have to count each note. You can't give a general approximation of so many bundles have come in. From a bundles you could make out at that time. Today each note is being counted separately. And the last tranche of money has come into the RBI in the month of July itself.
At least we could have released how much money from NRA we received.
But that's the RBI's prerogative. They will give you one final figure. It's an irrelevant exercise whether they give it in installments or they give a final figure. The RBI is supposed to give a final figure. When they complete the exercise, they will give it.
Of course, we have filed a affidavit in the Supreme Court that there might be around 14.5 lakh crore complete 500 rupees and 1000 rupees currency. When in December 12 itself, there was more than 12.5 lakh crore currency came in. So after that 15 days, 20 days, and now it could have reached what we expected. So that government, you can say the RBI is shocked.
You see, writing an article based on your fiction is an easy thing. But to count each note is a specific exercise. And therefore, once the RBI completes that exercise of counting each note, they will give the accurate figure. They can't base it on an approximation, the manner in which you are mentioning it. That's fictional.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for sharing your time and thoughts. Thank you very much.